Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hello Word, the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of English vocabulary. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm thrilled to have you join me today. Our word of the day is dust. Dust is a B1 level noun, and it means tiny dry particles of earth or waste matter. It's the kind of thing you find on furniture when you haven't cleaned for a while, or swirling in the air after a demolition. Now, let's dive a little deeper. In everyday language, we use dust to describe that fine powder that settles on surfaces. For example, I need to dust the shelves, or the sunlight showed the dust motes dancing in the air. It's a very common word, and understanding it will certainly help improve your English. Let's explore some synonyms for dust. One synonym is powder. While powder can refer to other things like makeup, it can also describe fine particles similar to dust. For instance, the construction site was covered in a fine powder of cement. Another synonym is particles. Particles are small pieces of something. There were particles of dust floating in the air. We can also use the word grit. While grit often implies something a bit rougher than typical dust, it can still be used in contexts where you're talking about small, abrasive particles. The wind blew grit and dust into my eyes. Another synonym we could use is sediment. Sediment often refers to material that settles at the bottom of a liquid, but it can also describe fine dust that has accumulated. The heavy rains turned the dust into a thick sediment on the cars. Now, what about antonyms? What words mean the opposite of dust? Well, antonyms are a little trickier because dust is a physical substance. So, we need to think about what removes or prevents dust. One antonym could be cleanliness. Cleanliness is the state of being free from dust and dirt. For instance, the hospital emphasized the importance of cleanliness to prevent infections. Another antonym could be purity. Purity implies a state of being unadulterated, without any foreign particles like dust. The purity of the mountain air was refreshing. We can also use the word spotlessness. Spotlessness means without any spots or blemishes, including those caused by dust. The hotel room was praised for its spotlessness. Now, let's explore how we use dust in everyday life. We often talk about house dust, which is the dust that accumulates inside our homes. We also use the verb dust, meaning to remove dust. For example, I have to dust the furniture this weekend. There are also common expressions involving dust. For example, bite the dust means to fail or die. The company finally bit the dust after years of financial struggles. Another expression is leave someone in the dust, which means to surpass or outdo someone easily. Our team left the competition in the dust during the race. Here are some more examples of how we can use dust in sentences and phrases. The old books were covered in dust. I used a cloth to dust the table. The farmer's face was weathered and covered in dust after a long day in the fields. The dust storm made it difficult to see. She could see the sunbeams through the dust. The explosion sent a cloud of dust into the air. Scientists study cosmic dust to learn about the origins of the universe. The antique shop smelled of old books and dust. The museum staff carefully removes the dust from the artifacts. After the demolition, there was dust everywhere. The car kicked up a cloud of dust as it drove down the dirt road. The room was filled with dust and cobwebs. The painting was protected from dust by a glass case. I used a vacuum cleaner to remove the dust from the carpet. The air was thick with the smell of dust and old wood. The desert is full of dust and sand. Don't forget to dust before the guests arrive. A layer of dust coated everything in the abandoned house. The construction workers wore masks to protect themselves from the dust. The wind carried the dust across the plains. She wiped the dust from the photograph. Be careful not to stir up too much dust. The window sills were thick with dust. Even the plants were coated in dust from the nearby construction site. The dust settled slowly after the earthquake. The old map was brittle and covered in dust. The only sound was the wind whistling through the dusty streets. I always wear gloves when I dust antiques. The abandoned mine was full of dust and echoes. The sunlight made the dust sparkle in the air. So, to recap, dust refers to tiny dry particles. We've learned some useful synonyms like powder, particles, grit, and sediment, and we touched on some antonyms such as cleanliness, purity, and spotlessness. We've also explored how dust is used in everyday conversations and expressions. Thank you so much for joining me on Hello Word today. Remember to subscribe to our podcast and leave a review. Your support helps other English learners find our show. And finally, I encourage you to create your own sentence using the word dust and share it as a comment under the video. I can't wait to read your creations.